Welcome back. So this is basically where we left off. Mostly. If you remember we ended our last video with not being able to delete the stack. That's because I need to set that to true. Before you delete a bucket, you need to delete everything inside the bucket. Also, I set that to false because it really needs to be false. So that's just going to be false. But when you do all that and then regenerate the YAML, which we're going to go ahead and save that's a useful command. Do all that, then you have your erp.yaml file. And it has a bunch of YAML-based resources. I don't know, to me it looks like Python. All the enforced indenting and colons and stuff. But you can see a list of resources. These look like they're just like user identifiers. And you can see it's referenced elsewhere in the document. Let's collapse all these so we can see the resources we created here. We have a bunch of this metadata that I'm not even sure that we need all this. I always just deployed a US East 1. I don't even know if I need all these other conditions. I'm going to leave them for now. So today we're going to start taking this apart a little bit, seeing how it works. And the first step to that, we're going to find out how to deploy this CloudFormation YAML file. And I think I know basically what we need to do. I think. I've never done this before. It's very exciting. But if you go into the Amazon documentation or the CLI, it's like type in AWS and see it's AWS command help. So if you do AWS help, let's see what commands we have. Use AWS command help for information on a specific command. Let's see if there's one for CloudFormation. There is indeed. Breaking that down a little bit more, we just see if there's one for deploy. And there it is. So what we're going to try doing is AWS CloudFormation deploy, feed it our template file, feed it the name of the stack, and then, and our profile. And we're just going to see if it works. Here it goes. Is it right? Yes. Well, I don't know if it's right, but it is what I intended. Error occurred when calling the create change set option requires capability IAM. So it's needing a user role that we don't have, which is kind of interesting. Let's see what we can learn about that error for just a minute. Reading. Sufficient capabilities exception. See what we can learn. This means that a CloudFormation template you're running has IAM resources in it. AWS lets you know and makes you acknowledge that you know by adding a special flag when you're running a CLI CloudFormation deploy, create, or update command. So it says, in my case, this needs to become this, and looks like we just need to add a flag. Really? Well, that's easy. That's not a showstopper at all. It's weird that the CDK doesn't require you to do that. CloudFormation thinks it's important enough that you need to be aware of what you're doing, but deploying to CloudFormation directly is like you have to be specific. Waiting for change set to be created, waiting for stat create update to complete. Now, theoretically, this should go a little bit faster. It's not needing to build TypeScript. It does still need to do all those same things. It's needing to create the bucket. It's needing to deploy a file to S3. And that's all. That's really all it does. Really, that should go pretty quickly. We're going to have to learn what all these other things are, though. As long as we're learning to do this, it'd be good to learn what it all does. What it's all for. I don't normally even think about it. I usually just like throw stuff out there. Like, look at this one. It's creating a Lambda function for us for deleting everything in S3 when we destroy the bucket. That Lambda function is something that you're probably going to have to pay to keep in place up there. Because you have a Lambda, you also need to create a role for that Lambda to give it permission to access your bucket. And I'm pretty sure that's what this is. Well, that's for assuming a role. Basic execution role, allow the Lambda to run. Web bucket policy. Anyway, let's see if our bucket's there. ls, profile, sandbox, rep, org, trade homes, web bucket. Okay. Where was my cp command? There. We're going to try copying the index file back down. And ta-da! So the index file made it up. So let's see. Just so you can see that there's no tricks up my sleeve here. Wow, where's the index file? Theoretically, the contents of the index file should be somewhere in all of this. Should have kept that file in place. You know what I'm searching for. Sample web bucket. Ooh, it's not there at all. What was it referring to? It must have loaded in another file. From where? Oh, this is so mysterious. I love a good mystery. that? There's a zip file there. Let's take a look. So open that asset file. Oh, come on. CLI, it's filled with Python code. Well, that's not useful at all. I don't want to use Python code. This asset folder up here, it's a big old, looks like a GUID associated with it, which is right there. 3 asset folders, 3 GUIDs. So it's deploying a zip file. That's kind of interesting. We'll have to keep that in mind. I'll see if we can change how that works. That'll be a good experiment to see if we have a handle on what's going on here. First, we are going to delete the whole. No, I'm not deleting that. I'm going to rename it in case I want it back later. And then it wants a zip file. I think it just wants a zip file with our index in it. Let's create a zip file. And we're just going to stick the README and license up there. Why not? We will call it bucket. Bucket.zip. And actually don't need this anymore. Or that, or we might need deploy. And let's see how to tear down a CloudFormation YAML file. Available commands. We're looking for something like destroy. There's delete stack. Is there a destroy? No. Delete stack. Nope. Delete stack and then stack name. Let's go ahead and save our copy command also. So I don't have to keep looking it up. Now we're going to tear down that stack and redeploy it. I hope. That was a little too fast. That has me super suspicious. What in the world just happened there? Um, let's see our bucket. It's not there. Leave that quickly? I mean, I know there wasn't much in there, but even so, CDK scripts usually want to think for a bit. All of our useful CLI commands. Alright, just to be sure, I'm deleting our sample file, our index file, and I'm going to try to copy it back down. And this should do nothing. Let's find out. Fatal error. The key index.html does not exist. Wow. It actually did just delete, like lickety split. So, our bucket deployment object here, I want to try that and see if we can just feed it a different zip file. And then we wait. That's the command for viewing the directory in the web bucket. Theoretically, the bucket zip file contains our license and README files. So that's in our bucket zip file. Our YAML file contains a CDK bucket deployment step referencing our bucket zip file. So I'm kind of hoping that CloudFormation is going to pick up that zip file and deploy its contents to the web bucket. And we will see. Waiting, waiting, waiting for this to deploy. That's, that's the thing I missed from the CDK is the progress meter. Failed to create, update the stack, run the following command to fetch the list of events leading up to the failure. Sure, let's take a look. Stack events. Rollback complete. Delete complete. Rollback complete. Delete complete. Delete complete. Oh, that's incredibly not useful. Oh, it keeps going. Hmm. There's another zip file. A bit suspicious. That maybe we need more zip files. We're going to. Oh, what is this? Receive response attachment because failed. Non-zero exit status. Error logs. You just have to convince yourself that they mean something and keep telling yourself that story until it starts making sense. You just gotta have faith that there's some sense in there. It's a weird one. Wish there was a little more detail there. Now what we might need to do is split up the uploading of objects from the CloudFormation stack. I'd rather not do it, kind of like having it all together. So, why is it failing to upload my bucket zip file? But apparently doing fine for all these other weird zip files. Wow, this log just keeps going. Okay, that is the end. Now we gotta decide what to do with that knowledge. Let's see what all zip files are being referenced here. There's 5 zip files. First one up here, custom CDK bucket deployment. It's related to a Lambda function. It's Python. And it's E976. So it should be that file. Of course, that's not the one that failed. Let's see what we can learn from a little search here. Not expecting to find much useful. The thing I'm trying to do here is weird. So bucket deploy, got S3 key, metadata, asset path, variables. Still a chance that I'm just going to chop a lot of this out. See if we can learn how to deploy it one little piece at a time. Take longer, but we need to understand what we're doing. Source object keys. Source bucket names. Destination bucket names. Let's split this. Split right. Collapse that. S3 key. Asset path. So that's referenced in 2 places. Curious, if we change this back, that, does it all start working? Oh, okay, we gotta delete it, and then we can redeploy. When stacks are partially deleted, they get fussy. So what I did, I changed that back to that weird zip file name, try to redeploy it with that, and see if that works. If it works, I'll be able to tell you confidently that I don't really know why. But hopefully we will before we're done. I like to do a bit of reading while waiting for these things to deploy. Right now, I'm trying to figure out what we're missing from our upload specification. Red.bucket deployment. Deploy static website, custom resource. That worked, which is just so weird. And that worked. The index file is back in our web bucket. Where did it come from? We're going to compress that whole directory, delete it, rename it. Now we know that there's no index.html hiding somewhere to make us sad. Right back down. And empty. Redeploy. Okay. No, delete in progress. Okay, so it does not delete right away. The stack is currently in the process of being deleted. We're just not getting updates because we're working with CloudFormation instead of CDK, which is just fine. Okay. Onward. Redeploying. Those old zip files are nowhere that the AWS CLI should be able to find. There's no reference to our index.html file. Well, aside from in our TypeScript code. TypeScript code is not being read. And if this still works, I'm basically going to be working with a different theory. I'm kind of wondering if all these files are being zipped up and uploaded separately. Like, I'm wondering if the CDK is bundling up the assets and sending them somewhere. And then CloudFormation is then coming back through later and consuming those resources. Like, instead of uploading, is it just copying it from a special CDK bucket into our target bucket? There would actually be a bit of sense to that. Type custom CDK bucket deployment. And what that means for us here is basically is that if this is still working, then I don't think we're going to be able to use those custom CDK bucket deployments as part of our process. We're going to need to upload files from the CLI, which is really easy to do. You just got to know to do it. Yeah, that still works. Okay. Let's look at our bucket. Our amazing invisible index.html file is still there. So, here is what we will do. First, we're going to tear that back down. Yeah. Excuse me. Clean that stack. I'll let that rest for a bit. Don't need the bucket zip file. It's not helping us. And then in our ERP YAML file, we're going to leave most of this. That is not helping us at all. Oh yeah, okay. Source bucket name. The CDK, when it bootstraps your AWS environment, creates its own little sandbox in a sandbox where it can do its hand waving. So we're basically the deployment is pulling from that source bucket and is pulling out that object. So yeah. Just going to stop using the CDK S3 deployment module. Do you want to wait hours to upload a project? We hope you don't and are looking for fast and easy solutions. Is it good or not, and why you shouldn't use it? Too long didn't read. You should only use S3 deployment, only if you are needing to upload under 100 files. Okay. What is happening under the hood when this stack is deployed? Contents archive uploaded to an intermediary assets bucket. Da da da. The bucket deployment construct synthesizes a custom CloudFormation resource of type into the template. Custom resources download to the zip archive, extracts it, issues the sync delete against the destination. There you go. We need a different way to deploy stuff. That's a paid article, which I'm not going to do anything with right now, but I really appreciate him letting me read that much. So basically what we need to do is remove all this because we can't do anything with it. I think it means that we can get rid of that. CDK bucket deployment. And then we need that Lambda function anymore. It looks like it's related to CDK bucket deployments. Bucket deployment service role. I'm pulling that too. Bucket deployment. Pulling it. Static website custom resource. CDK bucket deployment. Yeah, it's going to go away too. Because it's not actually deploying anything. It's copying between two buckets. I don't need a middle manager. Deploy static website AWS CLI layer. I don't feel like we need this either. Let's just go nuts. Custom S3, auto delete objects, custom resource provider handler. Land the function for auto deleting objects in that bucket. Let's go ahead and keep that. Referring to a zip file in that bucket, which the CDK created for us. So basically what's happening is when we tell CloudFormation we want to delete a stack, one of the things it's going to do is run that Lambda function to empty out the bucket for us. So I think ultimately I'm going to want to pull that under our own control. But I'm not doing it right now. We're just going to leave that part alone. Customers 3 auto delete objects, custom resource provider role. Okay, that can stay. We'll allow it to live for today. S3 auto delete objects. Probably needs to say. Web bucket policy. Probably what gives the Lambda functions permission to access the bucket. Policy is attached to this thing. Oh no. Let's try redeploying with what we have and see what happens. I'm thinking that what will happen is that we're just going to create a bucket along with a couple of Lambda functions. Oh, it does not exist? Well, let's create it. Deploy. So we have our MIT license and we have a README. Not much in it yet. Hoping next couple of weeks we'll fill it up. And we will need a command. Let's organize our commands a little bit. S3 CP, the license file to that. All right, deployed, but does it exist? It does exist. Let's see if there's anything in it. Actually, let's look at contents. Now let's copy some files into our bucket. Oh, gotta specify your code. And let's copy a README up there too. And now let's list bucket contents. Okay, so that copied both of those files up to the server. Less. Now, theoretically, since we left those Lambda functions in place, we should be able to just delete this and it will knock out all those files from the stack. Profile, sandbox. It's deleting. Just give it a minute to think. I want to make sure that all that's still working. And I think ultimately we're going to want to cut the CDK stuff out of the loop entirely, which will mean digging into what's going on with those other zip files. And that'll be interesting. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do that yet. But let's see if our bucket exists. Did it delete? It's not there. All right, so the bucket did delete. All the contents deleted. Going to assume the lambda functions executed like they should. So we're going to stop this here. Before we can work on converting this further into a mini script program, which is my goal for all of this, we're going to have to dig a little bit deeper into those lambda functions the CDK is writing for us. So next time we talk, we're going to have to probably get into some Python code. That'll be fun. So, all right. Hope to see you next time.